On today's episode, we have three off-roaders from 1983. One is Russian, astonishingly cheap, and far more capable than its price has any right to suggest. One is Japanese, huge, durable, and engineered with the sort of seriousness usually reserved for military logistics. And one is British, built in Solihull, running on coil springs for the first time in 34 years, and about to remind everyone why Land Rover had been the name to beat for decades. All three promised capability when the road ran out, but promising it and proving it were never the same thing. So the question is this: when the mud got deep, the track disappeared, and the weather turned ugly, which one actually delivered? This is Four Wheels and Fuel. Let's find out.
На трудных тропах ждут нас порой неожиданности. Такой приятной неожиданностью станет Lada 2121. Небольшой автомобиль с огромными возможностями. Надежность, высокая проходимость, вместительность, комфортабельность, экономичность. Это Lada 2121.
Lada Niva. The Lada Niva arrived in Britain in the late 1970s as a proposition that was difficult to argue with on purely financial grounds. It was small, inexpensive, and equipped with something that at this price point was virtually unheard of: permanent four-wheel drive with a lockable center differential. This was not a simplified system or a compromise solution. It was a proper off-road drivetrain, designed in the Soviet Union by engineers who built vehicles for environments where roads were often optional. Under the bonnet, the Niva used a 1.6-litre inline-4, derived from the VAZ 2106, itself based on an older Fiat design from the 1960s. Over time, that engine had been adapted into something robust and durable rather than refined. It produced 75 brake horsepower and 116 Newton-meters of torque through a 4-speed manual with no automatic option available. Power was delivered to all four wheels through a permanent system, with the ability to lock the center differential when conditions demanded it. At around 1,065 kilograms, the Niva was relatively light for a four-wheel drive vehicle. It reached 60 miles per hour in around 18.0 seconds and topped out at approximately 81 miles per hour, with fuel consumption at around 22 miles per gallon, reflecting an engineering approach that prioritized simplicity and reliability over efficiency. On the road, the Niva behaved exactly as its design suggested. It was honest and functional, but comfort was not a priority. The handling on tarmac felt agricultural, with noticeable body movement and limited refinement at higher speeds. Steering precision was secondary to durability, and the overall experience reinforced the idea that this was a tool, not a lifestyle product. Off-road, however, the story changed completely. In difficult terrain, the Niva performed at a level that its price gave absolutely no right to expect. The permanent four-wheel drive system worked effectively. The lockable center differential provided traction where other vehicles would struggle. Ground clearance was sufficient, and the short wheelbase helped in tight or uneven conditions. This capability made it popular in environments where reliability mattered more than comfort. Farmers in the Alps used them. Scottish crofters relied on them. Aid organisations operating in regions with limited infrastructure adopted them in significant numbers. The Niva succeeded because it delivered exactly what it promised, even if it did little else. Its weaknesses were just as clear. Build quality reflected Soviet manufacturing standards of the time, with inconsistent assembly and materials that did not age well. Fuel economy was modest, and long-term reliability could vary depending on use and maintenance. In Britain, buyers attracted by the low purchase price sometimes found themselves spending money on repairs they had not anticipated. But for those who needed genuine off-road capability at the lowest possible cost, the Niva offered something no competitor could match. For the money, it wasn't just competitive, it was unique.
Announcing the ultimate double in four-wheel drive. Datsun MQ Patrol Diesel. And now, petrol models. We've doubled the range to 8 gutsy four-wheel drives. Diesel pickups and cab chassis. Diesel and petrol hardtops and wagons. Datsun MQ Patrol. The ultimate double.
Hurry into Midland Datsun.
Nissan Patrol K160. Nissan had been building the Patrol since 1951. By the time the K160 series reached Europe in the early 1980s, it represented over 3 decades of accumulated engineering experience in off-road vehicles. This was not a car designed to compete with road-focused SUVs. It was built from the ground up as a working machine, intended to operate in environments where durability mattered more than comfort. The K160 followed a traditional off-road formula: body-on-frame construction, solid axles, leaf spring suspension front and rear. Available in both short and long wheelbase configurations, it was designed to carry weight, absorb punishment, and continue operating under conditions that would stop lighter vehicles. The European specification long wheelbase version used the SD33 engine, a 3.2-litre inline-six diesel with overhead valves. It produced 94 brake horsepower and 196 Newton-meters of torque, delivered through a 4-speed manual gearbox, later updated to a 5-speed during the 1983 model year. In some markets, a 3-speed automatic transmission was also available, though the manual remained the preferred choice for off-road use due to its control and reliability. At approximately 1,835 kilograms, the Patrol was significantly heavier than the Niva. It reached 60 miles per hour in around 22 seconds and had a top speed of roughly 81 miles per hour, with fuel consumption at around 20 miles per gallon, reflecting its size, weight, and low-revving diesel engine. On paper, those figures appear unremarkable, but the Patrol was never about speed. Its entire engineering philosophy was centered on endurance. It was designed to keep moving regardless of terrain, load, or conditions. Off-road, the Patrol delivered exactly that. The combination of torque, ground clearance, and suspension articulation allowed it to traverse terrain that would defeat smaller or less robust vehicles. It could pull other four-wheel drives out of deep mud, climb steep inclines with consistency, and operate for extended periods without mechanical complaint. Its reputation was built in demanding environments. Patrols were used by military organizations, oil companies, agricultural operations, and government fleets across multiple continents. This was a vehicle developed through real-world use, refined over time by feedback from people who depended on it daily. If you enjoy the stories on Four Wheels and Fuel, you can support the channel by buying me a coffee. Just click the link on the screen or scan the QR code. It helps keep these nostalgic car stories alive. Let's continue. On the road, however, the patrol revealed its compromises. The leaf spring suspension, tuned for load carrying and off-road articulation, produced a firm and sometimes unsettled ride on tarmac. The interior was functional rather than refined, with materials chosen for durability rather than comfort. At around £8,500 in the United Kingdom, it was considerably more expensive than the Niva, but also significantly more capable in sustained heavy-duty use. For buyers who needed serious off-road performance above all else, the Patrol was difficult to fault. Where it struggled was in a changing market. By 1983, a new type of buyer was emerging, one who wanted off-road capability without sacrificing everyday usability. The Patrol could deliver the capability. It simply made fewer concessions to comfort than some buyers were beginning to expect. It was not trying to be versatile. It was trying to be dependable. Do you love classic American cars? From big V8 muscle to forgotten American icons, then you'll want to check out our sister channel, Four Wheels and Fuel USA. After this video, of course. The link is in the description. Land Rover 110. Solihull, 1983. Land Rover introduced the 110 and with it, one of the most important engineering changes in the company's history. For the first time since 1948, a Land Rover was no longer built on leaf springs. Instead, it used coil springs on all four corners, a decision that fundamentally changed how the vehicle behaved both on and off the road. This was not a minor update. It was the result of years of development work and a growing recognition that the outgoing Series 3 had been falling behind its competition, particularly in ride quality and refinement. The 110 was Land Rover's response, an attempt to modernize without abandoning the core principles that had defined the brand for decades. The new model came with permanent four-wheel drive as standard, replacing the part-time system used previously. Power was sent to both axles at all times, with a transfer case offering high and low range, along with a center differential to manage torque distribution. This setup improved traction on mixed surfaces and made the vehicle more predictable in changing conditions. The V8 version used the Rover 3.5-litre all-aluminium engine, originally developed by Buick and later refined extensively by Rover. It produced 114 brake horsepower and 251 Newton-meters of torque, delivered through a 4-speed manual gearbox with an integrated transfer case. In some markets, automatic transmission options would later become available, but in 1983, the manual remained the standard configuration. At around 1,850 kilograms, depending on body style, the 110 reached 60 miles per hour in approximately 14.5 seconds and had a top speed of around 90 miles per hour, with fuel consumption at about 16 miles per gallon, reflecting both the weight of the vehicle and the characteristics of the V8 engine. On the road, the introduction of coil springs made an immediate difference. The ride was still firm by passenger car standards, but noticeably more composed than the leaf-sprung Series 3. Long-distance driving became more manageable, and the vehicle no longer felt entirely out of place on regular roads. Off-road, the advantages were even more significant. Coil springs allowed greater wheel articulation, meaning each wheel could move more independently over uneven terrain. This improved traction and stability, particularly in challenging conditions where maintaining contact with the ground was critical. At around £9,500 in the United Kingdom for the V8 model, the 110 was significantly more expensive than both the Niva and the Patrol. But it offered something neither of them combined as effectively: genuine off-road capability, improved on-road performance, and the backing of a brand with over 3 decades of experience in building vehicles for extreme conditions. The Niva made the case for affordability. The Patrol made the case for durability. The 110 made the case for balance. It was not just another off-road vehicle. It was the reference point. Three off-roaders, 3 completely different interpretations of what mattered when the road disappeared. The Niva approached the problem with simplicity and cost. Permanent 4-wheel drive, minimal complexity, and a price that made it accessible to buyers who would otherwise never consider a vehicle like this. The Patrol took a different route, larger, heavier, and built around long-term durability. It wasn't concerned with comfort or speed. It was designed to keep going regardless of conditions, and built for people who depended on that reliability every day. And then there was the 110, a step forward rather than a compromise. Coil springs, permanent 4-wheel drive, and an attempt to combine serious off-road capability with something approaching everyday usability. Each one solved the same problem, just in a different way. When the road runs out completely, which one are you trusting to get you through? And which one are you leaving behind? Let us know in the comments, and if you want to support the channel, you can buy me a coffee. The link is in the description. And on that bombshell, this is 4 Wheels and Fuel. See you next time.